When it comes to anti-gravity racing games, two series have majorly defined the genre, Wipeout and F-Zero. Their formulas would be echoed through the countless spiritual successors and newcomers. Being they laid the foundation for what anti-gravity racers should be, it's rare that those principles are challenged. Yet, during the beginning of the 7th gen consoles, one game did exactly that. Let's take a look at the obscure oddity of Fatal Inertia EX. Fatal Inertia was the first game developed by Koei Canada using Unreal Engine 3. The game was released on September 6, 2007 for the Xbox 360, while an updated version called Fatal Inertia EX came out on May 29, 2008 for the PlayStation 3. This video will focus on the PlayStation 3 version, as it's an overall improvement over the Xbox 360 release, which I will cover later in the video. The game is being played on the RPCS3 emulator, and for footage directly from either the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, an icon of the console will be in the bottom right. The game takes place in the mid-22nd century, where mega corporations rule everything from politics to entertainment. They created the extreme sporting event of Fatal Inertia, which is what we race in. The game has a career mode with 3 main tiers and really no story outside what I mentioned. There are 7 different environments, 5 game modes, 4 different craft types, and 9 weapons. The game has 2-player split screen, but its online multiplayer has been lost, with GameSpy shut down in 2014. On the surface, Fatal Inertia EX may just look like another generic anti-gravity racer, yet playing the game highlights its defining aspects, with one of them being its physics. While many other anti-gravity racers have a more on-rails assisted approach, Fatal Inertia EX has essentially a naturalistic physics system. There is a certain freeness to how these ships interact with the environment and each other. It doesn't feel like you are glued to the ground or stuck to a certain axis with other players. There are many times you fly high above the track and clip the ground. You can also go above or below other racers as well. Your ship can even take visual damage, which is a nice touch. Control-wise, the crafts handle excellently. They are very responsive and nimble without feeling overly sensitive. You have a dedicated brake button with separate left and right strafing buttons. You can roll your ship when double pressing these strafing buttons. Overall, you have crafts with great controls and a more naturalistic feeling to them. However, the physics system doesn't end there, as it also applies to the combat. A lot of anti-gravity racers feature vehicular combat, and Fatal Inertia EX is no exception to this. Yet its style of combat is unlike any of them, as there is a lot of physics-based weaponry that can be shot forwards or backwards. These weapons include magnet and cluster magnets, which are grenades that stick to your ship and detonate after a short time. Rocket, which can be used as a speed boost, but it can also be attached to other racers, causing their ship to veer out of control. Force Blast, which can be used as an instantaneous speed boost or to blast people out of the way. Smoke Bomb, which creates a blinding smoke cloud that makes it very hard to see. Cable, which can be attached to the environment for a speed boost, tether a racer down, and even tie 2 ships together. Force Field, which is a shield that protects you from weapons. EMP, which disables other racers around you for a few seconds, causing their ship to lose their anti-gravity and crash into the environment. Lastly, Time Dilator, which slows down time for everyone else except the person using it so they can get ahead. To remove magnetized items from your craft, you can roll, use a charge boost, use an EMP, equip a shield, and use a Force Blast. There is so much wild stuff that can happen because of how these weapons interact with the physics. Many anti-gravity racers have raised roads that may have barriers going along each side. If you go off these roads, you are essentially leaving the racing surface. However, Fatal Inertia EX has tracks more like ones you would see in off-road racing games. You don't fall off or leave the racing surface, since there aren't any hard to find roads or barriers. Plus, there are checkpoints that are rather far apart, further showing that you aren't stuck to a particular path. You can usually take multiple routes, cut the track, or even go outside the intended route. Just like with the craft physics, these maps allow for a certain freeness that really complements what this game is going for. However, with tracks like these, there are much more environmental hazards. Trees, rocks, land formations, buildings, and more detail these courses. You can be blinded by bushes, fall down a hole, and crash into a tree. There can also be physics objects on these maps, so breaking through wood or smashing through icicles can happen. What you get is these interesting but also tricky tracks that aren't usually seen in this genre. Angular, sharp, and aggressive. This is what we come to expect from traditional anti-gravity vehicle design, yet the crafts in Fatal Inertia EX are sleek, curvy, and subdued. There are a total of 4 ships, being the Phoenix, Aurora, Mercury, and Titan. They all have in-depth customization, and you can make multiple loadouts for the same craft. One of the customizable parts is the wings, which means they can have much more pronounced wings. While you can add decals, the crafts come with pristine paint jobs as a default, without any blemishes or company logos. All these elements make these ships stand out. They feel like a hybrid between planes and the anti-gravity vehicles that we're used to. While Fatal Inertia EX is a unique game, it's certainly not the best this genre offers. The game has glaring issues that hold it back. Firstly, there are a fair amount of technical issues. There's a lot of pop-in and textures taking a while to load. The frame rate also dips rather frequently, and I've encountered small stutters from time to time. The developers did have problems with Unreal Engine 3 on the PS3, which is why EX released 8 months after the Xbox 360 version. It's a shame that not all the issues were dealt with. Secondly, having only 4 crafts is disappointing, especially since I feel the Titan is not viable for any game mode. I ended up only using the other 3. While you can make separate loadouts for each craft type, this game really needed more varied ships. Plus, some upgrades are locked behind online play, which you can't even do anymore. Thirdly, the Magnet Mayhem races are one of the worst game modes I've ever played in a racing game. This mode is a regular race, but everyone is given infinite magnet grenades. This leads to a constant spam of grenades that tanks the frame rate. It's just a complete overload, as you have to deal with the grenades that opponents shoot and the ones that fall off others, all while the game is running like complete shit. It's a mode that I absolutely dread playing. Lastly, there is no restart button in the career. Even with a series with only one event, I was still forced to back out to the main menu. I've seen some games do this to add more challenge to their multi-event series, but it really sucks here. With the physics-based nature of the game and its more unforgiving track design, it can be very unpredictable. You can get one bad race and it completely screws you for the entire rest of the series. It's just not fun having to go through the whole series again because we can't restart events. Before ending this video, I want to talk about why I skipped over the Xbox 360 release. I originally wanted to cover it as well, but then all of its additional problems accumulated into one when reaching the Armageddon series. These races were so bad that I actually stopped playing the 360 version. In this particular series, we are thrown on much shorter, tighter courses that really expose how imprecise the controls are in this version. Crafts are floatier, which leads to smashing into the ground more. They are also less nimble, which meant I crashed out more. If you crash in EX, your ship stays stable and you can usually get quickly back into the race. However, crashes are more realistic in the 360 release, so your ship will completely freak out. While I do appreciate what they're trying to go for, not having crash cams makes these moments more inconvenient than cool. Another aspect that was tweaked in EX was its tracks. Some courses had particular items moved, changed, or deleted to make them easier to navigate. So, racing on the original tracks combined with the less responsive controls makes the 360 version immensely frustrating at times. What also doesn't help is that the 360 version is overall much harder. This means that recovering from things like crashes or getting lost can really set you back. Lastly, EX has a way better sense of speed. This is a strange one because the game claims that we are actually going slower in EX than in the original. So it seems EX gave us a more accurate speed reading while also changing how the camera moves and shakes. While the Xbox 360 version of Fatal Inertia can still be a fun game, I can't recommend it over the much better PS3 version. However, it's a damn shame then that the PS3 release is digital only and still $30 on the PSN store, making it a much harder game to get versus its 360 release. From its physics, weapons, crafts, and tracks, there is something endearing about Fatal Inertia EX. Will it be the best anti-gravity racer you've ever played? Probably not, yet you are going to get a unique experience like no other. Fatal Inertia EX is truly the weirdest anti-gravity racer I've ever played. This has been Gamer Alex. I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great day.